Hey, what's up, everybody? Bro Trio here, and we are finally in the last month of 2021. This has been a crazy year, and we have had the privilege of giving ourselves the self-imposed task of talking about Zelda at least once a month, every month, this entire year to celebrate Zelda's 35th anniversary, because someone has to.
Yeah, we made it. We did
it. It was fun. It has actually thrown a big wrench into my video game playing, and because all I want to do is replay Zelda games, so 2021 video game of the year list is going to be a little harder to make, but it was worth it to replay Ocarina of Time on Nintendo Switch Online with the N64 controller the way God intended, and I loved it. But this video is special because it's capping off this list. So we figured we came into this year talking about the top 10 Zelda bosses with no finals. So we're going to leave this year talking about our top 10 Ganons. It is December and it's holiday season, so we're titling this episode How the Dwarf Stole Christmas and talking about our 10 best iterations of Ganon.
And we're starting this list off at a very appropriate place, the first Zelda. Because that's what introduced us, the players, to Ganon, and introduced just the whole lore and land of Hyrule. Ganon is a tough fight in that. He's not one of the best fights.
But he's a hard one.
Like, up until that point, you get the magic sword, you get all kinds of arrows and boomerangs and stuff. Except for the silver arrows, Ganon doesn't care about any of that. But he's shooting fireballs, he's teleporting all around, turning invisible, and you just have to figure out where he's at, go after him, and hope for the best until you earn that Triforce.
A little backstory on how the Bro Trio makes their lists. If you didn't know, what we do for our top 10 lists is we each come up with our own top 15 of whatever topic, and then we figure out the average of all of that to get our top 10s. So for Ganons, that was actually pretty hard to do because there are not really 15 Ganons. We had to add in some other stuff that we knew wasn't really going to make it, like Ganon in Animal Crossing, hilarious, but not going to make it. That being said, this entry is not from the Zelda franchise, but it is Ganondorf in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, because, my god, Ganondorf is just an absolute force of nature in that game. He's one of the heaviest hitters. You can KO someone on the opposite edge of the screen at like 30%.
Yeah, especially if they're light. If you hit like Kirby or Pikachu, they're just gone.
Yeah, he's such a powerhouse. And he always has been, because he got introduced a couple of games ago.
Yeah, in Melee. He was great in there. Like, his event quest to actually unlock him was really cool. It was really challenging. One of the first, big, skill ceilings of the event quests. But it was worth it, because you get Ganondorf. And for some reason, he's a Captain Falcon clone. But
yeah, that's always been weird, but I'm fine with it. He's super strong and super cool.
He's less Captain Falcon now than he ever has been, so things are looking up for the dwarf as far as Smash is concerned. We've talked about the Oracle games quite a few times on this channel, but we've never specifically called out Ganon. I'm pretty sure we've mentioned him here and there, but this is Ganon resulting from a botched ritual because you saved Zelda from being sacrificed to resurrect Ganon in the first place. So his mommies, Komei and Kodake, decided to sacrifice themselves instead. And it brought back Ganon, but not quite how he used to be. He's a dumbass now. This Ganon is based purely on instinct. He can talk a little, but it's pretty much just like, me kill you, kill, die, rah. So, still a cool fight. It's a lot similar to his fight from A Link to the Past. But the fact that this Ganon came from a botched ritual from a linked game and is technically the final boss of 2 games put him on this list.
There's one story aspect that we see occasionally, but not very often, and that's when Ganon wins. Breath of the Wild gave us that completely, because Ganon won.
Long ass time
Link
ago.
had to go into a magic coma for 100 years to heal. Zelda's stuck just holding him back as hard as she can, and the world had to deal with it.
Yep, that's just how those kids in this... Anyone that grew up in this world that was, like, born into it, they were like... A giant pig demon cloud flying around this castle. They're like, Dad, what's that? They're like, oh, that's just Calamity Ganon. He's doing his thing. We just don't worry about him. He can't get out of that castle.
That's honestly my favorite part of Breath of the Wild as far as Ganon is concerned, because he's not like a being. No one talks about him like a being. He is the Calamity Ganon that you would talk about like a hurricane or something with. Like, he's a literal force of nature. He's the Calamity Ganon. There are just many like songs and stories about all the like terror he has wrecked all over Hyrule, and every blood moon he causes so much more, putting all these monsters out there all the time.
And on top of all the rest of that, he's also got emissaries that are part of himself with elemental powers, because the Blights are out there. Those are also Ganon. And he used those to take over the last hope the people had, which was the Divine Beasts. And he just corrupted the Divine Beasts, he corrupted the world, and you have to go and stop and save everything.
A Link Between Worlds did a pretty decent job of balancing the old with the new. And we got a literal perfect example of that with you, Ganon, the final boss of A Link Between Worlds, because he summoned Ganon, which was the goal, but what Hilda did not know is that he was a betrayer in the making. How she just didn't just look at him and assume he was going to betray her, I'll never know. But also,
is clearly an evil sorcerer. Like, why would you trust
also,
him?
she's from Low Rule. She looks like a bad girl Zelda anyway, so it's fine.
I mean, that's true. It's like a goth dimension, basically.
Yeah. But Ganon's out, and then he gets absorbed by Yuga, so we got you, Ganon. He looks cool, because it's just Ganon with dreads. He's the same old force of nature we're used to dealing with, but this time, he can turn into paint. Because that is Yuga's ability. He goes into the wall, and you have to go into the wall after him. It's a hieroglyphic fight, and it's amazing. You gotta shoot him with light arrows in the butt, and the final shot, you gotta turn around and shoot it backwards, and it circles the whole room right in the butt. And that's how you finish off you, Ganon. It was a fantastic fight, and like the majority of the game A Link Between Worlds, a very good blend of the old and the new.
Appropriately coming before A Link Between Worlds, we have Ganon from A Link to the Past, because this is honestly probably one of the most iconic versions of Ganon. It's a lot of people's first like sense of like fighting the boss character, because it did the Super Nintendo did everything that the Super Nintendo did, and it did that for Ganon. So you can take Ganon from Zelda 1, you make him Super, you got a Link to the Past Ganon, because now he doesn't just like turn invisible and teleport. He still does that, but now he's shooting like fire bats and like a circle at you that you gotta like kind of
He's got that trident,
boomerang trident,
and he manipulated the entire kingdom as Aghanim.
Oh yeah,
before he was even.
He's got a plan, and he's getting stuff done in this game.
Aghanim started and invented the whole Dead Man's Volley thing that Ganon is known for these days. And even back then, he was changing it up. Not every beam he shoots, you can bounce back. Some of them just split and hurt you. And you fight Aghanim twice. And then the second time, you're just like, screw this. I'm turning it into a bat and crashing into this pyramid. And then you go down there, and it's big old pig, blue boar Ganon. And not only is he throwing the fire bats and the trident and stuff, but he literally stomps on the stage and makes it disappear in areas. It was one of the only bosses to do that. One of the first times that happened in video games. And it was so monumental to see and fight Ganon in the amazing spectacularity of the Super Nintendo in Link to the Past. I don't know if that's a word, but it fit.
It is now.
it's impressive that the only entry on this list without Ganon in the name made it into the top 5. But we had to throw Demise in here because, yeah, he's not Ganon, but his spirit created Ganon out of malice and hatred and revenge. So
Also, he's pretty much Ganon.
Yeah.
He may look like Akuma, but he's Ganon.
Yeah, so we had to count Akuma because he began the cycle of Ganon, and it's his malice that makes Ganondorf into Ganon and all the hatred and everything that comes with it. That, and he is so cool. His hair is fire. He pulled he pulled a Dark Master Sword out of Girahim, so like the goddess Hylia copied his ass when she made the Master Sword. Because like the Master Sword was not a thing until you made it,
Yeah.
so he invented that style of blade, but his looks a lot more like brutal. It looks like it's like serrated almost. It's really
that sword
really
would
cool.
hurt.
And I don't know how it wasn't a beat in the game that like Fee never shuts up, but they pull a Dark Master Sword out and she's got nothing to say. Like she's like, oh my god, it's the dark version of me. No, nothing, but you gotta tell me when batteries are low all the time. Oh well, whatever. I just don't understand how we didn't talk about it, but the personality, what little we got, plus an incredible boss fight in a dimension that he made just to fight Link in because he respects him as a warrior.
That's my main thing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
liked. Like, one line of dialogue put Demise, like, so high, in my opinion. Like, Link does not back down. He takes a step forward to face Demise, and Demise immediately just like, oh, you're still coming. You're braver than, like, any man or beast I've ever fought.
Yeah.
Yep, and then the way you kill him, jump up in the air, catch a lightning bolt with the Master Sword, come crashing down through his chest. Badass, totally badass. And then he's like, oh shit, you beat me, kid. My hatred's coming back. And then the sword eats him, and game over for Demise for now. I would love to see him come back in a future game because he is just so damn cool.
Twilight Princess gave us one of the fiercest Ganondorfs we have ever seen. Because he's got that Triforce of Power ready to go, and he is pissed. So, he's tired of being locked up. He breaks out of those spirit shackles, pulls that magic sword, like holy magic, whatever it is, out of his chest, and goes to town. Just straight up kills a sage.
With his
never
bare hands.
Yeah, like we've never seen him do that.
One hit.
All those sages were about to die had they not sent him to another dimension and said, hey, not our problem.
Well, that's the thing. They're just like, oh no. Okay, we just have to put him somewhere. We can't deal with him right now. Let's just send him somewhere. Of course, they send him to like a dark dimension where he can gain power.
Yeah,
so,
why would you send someone who thrives on darkness into the
Terrible.
Twilight Realm?
Yeah,
It's a terrible plan.
As far as I know, it's a one-way door, I guess, but it's a bad idea.
I mean, that's true, but that Ganondorf is just so cool because not only is he super strong and he has a plan going, it's not as detailed as some of his other plans. But he's got Zant recruited, he's doing his thing, and then you finally get to fight him. And he's like, hey, guess what? I possess Zelda. She's gonna fight for me. So you have to take on Zelda possessed by dark magic. After you finally beat her, he's just like, okay, it's pig time. So he turns into a boar, and you have to join forces with Midna just to put him down temporarily.
Beast on beast.
And then he's like, okay, well, let's do this the cool way. So you have a big epic sword fight duel on horseback.
Yeah. And he's pulling a straight up Aragorn and summoning an army of the dead to charge at you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's like bokoblins and stuff going around shooting arrows at you. There's so much happening in Hyrule Field at this time, and Ganondorf is causing all of it and loving causing it.
And then you finally whittle him down. And then you just have an epic man-on-man like sword fight. And once you finally finish him off, he's too badass to even die properly. Because he dies standing up and laughing at you.
In The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker, one of my favorite Ganons gets to take center stage as the main antagonist because Ganon in this game he's not the most powerful showing or the most, like, I don't know, not the best planner, but he's the most, like, conniving and relatable Ganon.
I mean, he kept his plan simple, and it almost worked. It's just like, get all the pointy-eared kids and
kill them.
Bring them to me, and I'll get their Triforces, and then we just throw them in the ocean.
And presumably, the fan theory is Ganon has killed the actual descendant of Link in this era because he's rooted up all these pointy-eared, blonde-haired kids to kill Link and Zelda just by trial and error. He's like, I know they're gonna look like this. Let's murder them.
Well, he's done with this reincarnation cycle at that point.
And unfortunately for him, he did not plan that the Link, the actual character of the game, was not the destined hero, but he could earn the Triforce of Courage by being courageous. And unfortunately for Ganon, that comes to bite him in the ass, because he not only doesn't plan for that to happen, but also you awaken Zelda's Triforce of Wisdom, and then the two collaborate to fight Ganon. And he almost wins, actually, because he's fighting children and not pulling any punches. Like, this Ganon does not care about anything. He's pulling two swords out, fighting Link. He made him fight his little puppets first, and then he saved all his actual energy for the real fight. And it's one of the best boss fights of the Zelda franchise. Ganon's jumping all over the place. You gotta be on your toes, be careful not to get hit, have that parry button ready, and then Zelda's just like, hey, I'll shoot him with light arrows. And then she does, like, twice. And then Ganon's like, okay, we can stop this. And then you have to actually reflect the light arrows off your mirror shield into Ganon. And it's one of the coolest, like, most badass ways to fight Ganon. And then, unfortunately for him, the King of Red Lions was sneaking up that entire fight to the actual fully formed Triforce to wish on it. He touches it, and he wishes the old Hyrule would get flooded, and that Zelda and Link could live happy lives. And Ganon just loses it, and just starts laughing, because what more can he do at that point? He's laughing because his plan has failed. He's about to die as much as Ganon can, and he just wanted to live in a world that wasn't too dry, and then it was too wet, and he just wants balance. He doesn't want to be too wet or too dry. Poor Ganon.
Now we get to the final dwarf on this list. The one Ganon on this list that was unfeasibly well planned out. He planned everything to the letter, including a letter that he put in a bottle, according to the fan theory, at least, because Ruto, at least...
It's not a fan theory. It's real.
It has to be real, because Ruto didn't write it. She said she didn't write it. Why would she lie about that? There's no reason to lie about that.
It's my main catch on replaying it with the N64 Online.
He wrote a letter.
Who else would have written that?
He wrote a letter, threw it in a bottle, threw that in the Lake Hylia, and was like, hey, Link's gonna get here one day. And that was part of his plan, was for Link to get that bottle and find that letter and go help him. Go help him achieve his plan. Link drawing the Master Sword was part of his plan. Link only lived that long because Ganondorf allowed it. Because he can't touch the Master Sword, he can't draw from his pedestal, but he knows Link can. Everything fell into place. Link has the Master Sword, and now Ganondorf got in the Sacred Realm. Link has to wait and grow up, and then he can use the Master Sword. But in that time, Ganondorf won. Ganondorf had ruled the world for 7 years. Hyrule Town, dead. All the refugees that survived went over to Kakariko. And Hyrule Castletown full of zombies, and a big old lava crater with a castle floating above it. Ganondorf won. He killed anyone that opposed him. He gave the farm to Ingo, and that's how you get Epona. There are so, like, how do you plan out that well that everything your hero does?
Also, he did do Hyrule a solid, because while other things are bad, he did clean up Hyrule Field. Because there are no longer small children that spawn. There's just like 10 ghosts, and that's it.
But other than that, like, how do you plan something like that? Where everything the hero does is part of his plan. Even if it wasn't part of his plan, he makes it part of his plan later. Like when Link and Zelda join back up, and he's like, bam, he caught Zelda. He even planned everything so well that when you're going up the stairs to fight him, he starts playing his own theme song on his organ. It's badass. Then he starts flying, and his cape and his mullet are flowing in the wind, and you fight him, and he's doing his old thing where he destroys pieces of the arena, playing Dead Man's Volley and everything. Beat that form. Then it's time for the real one. The castle collapses, and Ganondorf busts up out of there, pissed off, bleeding. They edited the blood to green to make it not a T rating anymore or something. Yeah. And then turns into Ganon. Actual Ganon. He lets everything loose, lets the power consume him. It's the first time we see this pig. 2 giant swords. In the original N64 version, you can't even see his face. It's too dark. You can only see his eyes. It's very intimidating, very cool. And then you just whack him in the tail a few times, and still, it's not enough. Zelda has to hold him down. Well, you stab him in the face. And that doesn't kill him. That just makes him weak enough to seal away. This is prime Ganondorf. Both in the timeline and in, like, his prime. Because everything to the T was planned, and he almost had it if it weren't for some sage BS right at the end where he was able to get sealed away. That is why he made #1 Ganon list. It was the planning, the characterization of him, and the amazing fight at the end to conclude that amazing game.
And sadly, bittersweetly, this is going to wrap up not only this video, but our entire year of Zelda. And it has been a wild ride. I've had so much fun making these lists. And I mean, it's not like we're never going to talk about Zelda again. I mean, come on. It's all like all of our favorite franchises. So we're going to talk about Zelda again in some facet. Like Breath of the Wild 2, more than likely coming out in 2022, hopefully.
Please.
But
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed Ganondorf is like fully in it, and he's not just like a mummy that like looks at you. That's it. But presumably Ganondorf will be in Breath of the Wild 2, Sheikah Boogaloo, and we are more than happy that we went through this list and looked at all the best versions of Ganon to get prepared for that, because there's some powerful ones, there's some conniving ones, there's some great fights in all of the Ganon dwarfs. I don't know what you call the collective, but that's what we were talking about today. We know it's all not like different Ganons. Some of these Ganons are the exact same Ganon, but in different games. But we're talking about each individual showing of every Ganon. So hope you like this list. Hope you are subscribed to the channel. If not, go ahead and subscribe. If you like Zelda, if you like us, we will talk about it again. It's going to happen.
It's guaranteed.
And you're going to want to hit that notification button so you get the notification right when we put out a video. And if you really love the Bro Trio, you want to get a little more in-depth look at our list, we do have our new Patreon reward where we will upload our individual lists to Patreon so you can see, like, hey, Daniel liked this one way more than Aaron did. Aaron put it at like 4, but Daniel put it at his like #1. So that little incentive if you want to go to join our Patreon. Big shout outs to Z-Man, our main Patreon. He keeps supporting the channel. And big shout outs to good old Bobby Reborn. He is by far and away our most like avid commenter. And I love hearing all the comments from him. Hopefully, all you other people get jealous of Bobby and comment, because I love reading the comments. I want to see what y'all have to say. And hopefully, it's all good. But hope y'all enjoyed our year of Zelda. And stay tuned for more Bro Trio.